These children represent God. They're the most innocent beings on this planet.
Children represent God. They're the most innocent and like God, and that's why the devil wants to kill them, wants to hurt them.
And the man who said that didn't just make a movie about it. He put his entire career on the line. He named names. And one of those names, the one Hollywood didn't want him to say out loud, was Oprah Winfrey.
They've done everything they could to stop it, as they did this with the Passion of the Christ.
But here is the question that nobody in mainstream media will ask. Oprah Winfrey built a school for young girls in South Africa. She poured $40 million into it. She called herself their mama bear. And then girls went missing.
I've never been near a puff party. Never been near it.
She can deny the parties, she can deny the connections, but she cannot deny the school. She cannot deny the girls. And she cannot explain why Jim Caviezel believes the missing children from that academy may have ended up somewhere far, far worse than anyone dared to say publicly. This is the story nobody is connecting. Until now. Now, before we get into what Jim Caviezel said about Oprah Winfrey, and this is a conversation that is spreading like wildfire right now, you need to understand who Jim Caviezel actually is and why his words carry weight. Most people know him as the actor who played Jesus Christ in The Passion of the Christ. But for the last decade, Caviezel has been quietly embedding himself in one of the most dangerous activist spaces in Hollywood, the fight against child trafficking. He starred in Sound of Freedom, a film based on the true story of Tim Ballard, a former Homeland Security agent who quit his job to run underground operations rescuing children from traffickers. And that film, Hollywood didn't want it to exist.
Everyone was told, from Rupert Murdoch, from Fox, to every studio, look, if you touch this thing, you will be out, you will be done. You'll be finished in 3 years.
Think about that for a second. A movie about saving children, literally, by rescuing kids from trafficking networks, and major studios threatened anyone who touched it. Rupert Murdoch, Fox, every major label. The message was clear: do not release this film. But Caviezel pushed through. The film eventually got picked up by Angel Studios. And when Sound of Freedom finally hit theaters, it made over $200 million. The public wanted to see it. Hollywood just didn't want them to. And during a screening, a particularly loaded scene, something happened that Caviezel says changed everything he understood about what he was up against.
I was asking about the movie, and I asked him about that one particular part where everybody's talking, and they all cried out Epstein Island. And I went, oh, okay. Now I understand what we're up against.
The audience screamed Epstein Island, not once, multiple times. At that same moment in the film, Caviezel took that as a signal. He started speaking publicly about what he called the 8-armed octopus, a network, a system, and he started pointing at names. When one of those names was Oprah Winfrey. Now, to understand the full weight of what Caviezel is implying, you need to know the real story of what happened at the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls in South Africa. Because the version you heard in 2007, the triumphant, charitable narrative, is not the complete picture. Here is what actually happened. After meeting with Nelson Mandela, Oprah made a public promise. She said she wanted to build a school for poor and disadvantaged girls in South Africa. In 2007, that school opened. She poured $40 million into a 28-building campus. Free uniforms, free books, free meals, a beauty salon, a yoga studio, 2 theaters.
Be a place of learning as well as living for them. We have to have a theater because this is a school for leaders, and in order to be a leader, you have to have a voice.
And the world praised her. Front pages, magazine covers, the great humanitarian, Oprah giving back. But within months of the school opening, the cracks started showing. And what came out of those cracks was not just a scandal. It was a horror story. A dormitory employee, Virginia Makapo, was arrested on charges including assault, indecent assault, and soliciting underage girls to perform indecent acts. At least 7 victims came forward. 7 young girls, pulled from poverty, given what was supposed to be the opportunity of their lives. And instead, they found themselves being victimized inside the very walls Oprah built for them. Oprah flew to South Africa immediately, and she called herself Mama Bear. She said she was shaken to her core. But here is where the story goes dark in a direction that most people have never followed. After firing staff and implementing a total lockdown of the school, the girls didn't feel protected. They felt imprisoned. Parents, actual mothers, began describing the school not as a place of safety, but as something closer to a detention camp. 2-hour supervised visits, restricted diets, no outside contact. One parent said, and I quote directly, "Surely this isn't a prison or an institution. The poor children are not even allowed to have any treats." These were girls from impoverished communities, girls who had been promised opportunity, and now they were being isolated, cut off from family, controlled in every dimension of their lives, inside a compound that Oprah controlled completely. And then the trial collapsed. Virginia Macapo, the woman charged with 14 counts of indecent acts against children, was acquitted. The magistrate said the testimony from the alleged victims was contradictory, lacked corroboration, and just like that, it was over. No convictions, no justice. 9 girls stood up, and not one of them got justice. Now here is where Jim Caviezel enters this story directly, because beyond the court case, beyond the failed trial, there are persistent, widespread reports about something far more disturbing. Reports that have circulated online for years and that mainstream media has consistently refused to investigate. Missing girls. People have claimed for years that an unknown number of girls from Oprah's South African Academy simply vanished. No records, no explanations, no investigation launched by Oprah, a woman with billions of dollars, a global media platform, and unlimited resources. She went silent. And Caviezel, a man who has spent years tracking the patterns of child trafficking networks, looked at that silence, and he connected it to something else. Jeffrey Epstein ran the most sophisticated child trafficking operation ever uncovered in American history. His private jet, infamously nicknamed the Lolita Express, flew the most powerful people in the world to his private island. Politicians, billionaires, Hollywood legends, tech moguls, all of them documented in flight logs that have slowly, painfully made their way into public record. And Oprah Winfrey's name has appeared in Epstein-related files not once, but allegedly 5 separate times. Now, there is no confirmed flight log placing Oprah on the Lolita Express herself, but here is what we do know. Her former business partner, Geraldine Laybourne, the woman she co-founded Oxygen Media with, was found in Epstein's private jet logs. That is confirmed. That is documented. And Caviezel, who has studied these networks with the obsession of a man who has seen what they do to children firsthand, sees a pattern that he says is impossible to dismiss.
It's an 8-armed octopus, and if you take just out, that arm will grow back. You have to take the head.
The head, not the individual arms, the head of the network. And what Caviezel is saying, what he has said on stage, on podcasts, and interviews, is that Oprah Winfrey is not just an innocent bystander who happened to know the wrong people. He is suggesting she is a structural piece of a much larger machine. The gatekeeper, the door opener, the woman who makes the predators look safe. Think about how that works in practice. A British actress named Katie and Noble described exactly how this system operates. She met Harvey Weinstein through Oprah, and in her own words, she said that seeing Weinstein standing next to Oprah made her trust him completely.
With Naomi Campbell, he had Oprah Winfrey there with him, who entered the room and was swinging off his arm and just seemed like a very dear friend. And these, like Oprah, Naomi, Rita, and Georgina, they all sat at his table. And for me, meeting Oprah was like, oh my God.
Do you understand what is being described there? Oprah's presence, her brand, her image, her reputation as the world's moral compass was being used as a weapon, as a trust mechanism, to lower the defenses of young women who would never have trusted Weinstein alone. Seal, the singer, posted a photo of Oprah kissing Harvey Weinstein on the cheek and captioned it, "When you have been part of the problem for decades, but suddenly they all think you are the solution." And Oprah never responded. Now bring it back to the school. Bring it back to South Africa. Bring it back to those girls, young women from impoverished communities, hand-selected, isolated, controlled, cut off from family, under the exclusive authority of Oprah Winfrey's institution, with a failed prosecution, a silent founder, and a trail of missing persons allegations that have never been formally investigated. Jim Caviezel looks at that picture and says, Epstein's island is not the only island. There are networks like this all over the world. And the people who run them do not look like monsters. They look like philanthropists.
Epstein Island isn't the only island out there.
He said that out loud, on camera, in public. Let's step back and look at the totality of what we are dealing with here. Because taken individually, each piece of this story has an explanation. But when you lay it all out, side by side, the pattern becomes very difficult to explain away. Harvey Weinstein. Oprah was photographed kissing him, attended events with him for decades. When the Me Too movement exploded, she redirected the conversation away from Weinstein specifically.
If we make this just about Harvey Weinstein, then we will have lost this moment.
That clip went viral for a reason. In the middle of the biggest abuse reckoning in Hollywood history, a reckoning that was specifically about Harvey Weinstein. Oprah's instinct was to steer the conversation away from the man she had been publicly associated with for decades, not toward accountability, away from it. John of God, a Brazilian faith healer Oprah promoted to millions on multiple occasions. She gave him a global platform without performing any due diligence. He was later sentenced to prison after dozens of women accused him of assault. Oprah issued a statement saying she was saddened. Did he? She hosted him, appeared at his events, praised him publicly. When his world began to collapse, she made that statement about never having been near his parties. But the photos exist. The timeline exists.
And anybody who knows me knows if there is a party, I'm the first one out.
The South African school, the abuse, the failed trial, and the missing girls, the silence. And then her name appearing in Epstein-adjacent files, her business partner's name in his jet logs, and a pattern of proximity to predators that stretches back 30 years. At some point, as Caviezel himself has suggested, proximity stops being coincident.
Are we going to let our children go? And that's a question, and people have to answer.
That question isn't rhetorical. For Caviezel, it is the entire point. Every system that protects children requires that the adults in power choose, consciously, actively, to protect them. And his argument is that Oprah Winfrey had every resource, every platform, and every opportunity to ask hard questions about the people around her. And she didn't. She chose not to. Or, as Caviezel implies, she chose something else entirely. Jim Caviezel has a specific theory about how people like Oprah Winfrey operate within these networks. He doesn't just call her an enabler. He calls her a gatekeeper, and that word carries a very specific meaning in the trafficking world. A gatekeeper is not the person who commits the act. A gatekeeper is the person who controls access, who determines who gets in and who gets out, who builds the trust infrastructure that makes the whole operation possible. Think about what Oprah controls. Decades of television, a magazine, a book club that can make any author a household name overnight, a film production company, political connections at the highest levels. She was publicly credited with swinging the 2008 election toward Barack Obama. She has promoted doctors, healers, spiritual leaders, and lifestyle gurus to audiences of tens of millions. She decides who gets legitimized, who gets a platform, who becomes trustworthy in the eyes of the American public.
Why are they so opposed, so frantic in antagonizing Sound of Freedom?
A movie about saving children, a film that tracks how trafficking networks operate, the grooming, the procurement, the cycle. And Oprah Winfrey and Tyler Perry allegedly worked to delay and block it. Why would anyone who had nothing to hide want to stop a movie about rescuing trafficked children? Caviezel says that question answers itself. And beyond the film, he points to the media's silence around Oprah's Epstein connections as direct evidence of how her gatekeeper status functions. She controls the story. She has always controlled the story. And the one story she has never allowed to gain traction, the one investigation that has never been launched, never been funded, never been demanded, is the one about her own school, her own girls, her own silence. Jim Caviezel has been saying publicly, at conferences, in interviews, on stages, that something is coming. He calls it a storm. He says it will involve mass arrests. He says celebrities should be nervous. But now, is Caviezel a prophet? Is he a conspiracy theorist? Is he a man so deep inside this fight that the lines between what he knows and what he suspects have blurred beyond recognition? Maybe. But here is what is not speculation. The school existed. The abuse occurred. The trial failed. The girls are unaccounted for. Oprah's business partner was on Epstein's flight logs. Oprah's name appears in Epstein-related documents. Oprah spent decades legitimizing men who were later convicted of predatory crimes against women. And Oprah has, in every single instance, emerged without consequence. And Caviezel is not wrong when he points out that for anyone without Oprah's billions and media control, that track record would not be survivable. They would be in jail. Instead, she is worth nearly $3 billion and has never been asked a single hard question under oath. Here is what Jim Caviezel actually believes, stated plainly. He believes child trafficking is not a fringe problem. He believes it operates through networks of trust, legitimacy, and access, maintained by people who appear, on the surface, to be the safest, most beloved figures in public life. He believes Sound of Freedom was suppressed specifically because it threatened to pull one thread that would unravel unravel those networks. And he believes that Oprah Winfrey, and through her school, her associations, her gatekeeping, and her silence, is connected to that system in ways that have never been properly examined. Those are serious accusations. They deserve serious investigation, not a gossip cycle, not a Twitter thread, an actual independent, on-the-record investigation. And maybe the most damning part of this entire story is simply this: no one with the power to conduct that investigation has ever tried. Oprah said it herself about the girls who came forward at her school. 9 girls had the courage to be heard, and not one of them got justice. What about the ones who didn't come forward? What about the ones who disappeared? What about the ones whose names we don't know because the woman with the resources to find them chose silence instead? Those are the questions Jim Caviezel is asking. And now, so are we. If this video opened your eyes to something new, hit share, drop your thoughts in the comments, and stay close because this story is far from over.